Hello, beautiful creator beings. I'm really excited to chat about a incredibly important and near and dear topic to our hearts today. We're going to talk about self-care, which is like the trendiest thing, right? But we're not going to do it full of shoulds and have tos and talking about like chocolate bubble baths and, that kind of treat yourself self-care. We're going to weave in some codes about how your self-care is sacred. Not only can it be a sacred task, but it's also a beautiful sacred responsibility. And that can be really revolutionary because we were created at a time where the paradigm was of self-sacrifice. Most of us that are watching this now, and we are running the old program of sacrifice of self in service to others. And right now we're trying to flip that, as a collective into understanding that we have to put on our own oxygen mask first when it comes to taking care of us so that we can be in this overflowing abundance of energy and we can take care of ourselves so that we can share our light and show up and shine. And that is not an easy task to reprogram this huge collective scarcity experience that we have been through that included, self-sacrifice, service to others above all else, burn yourself out, and it doesn't matter, and you're just left with the ashes and the crustiness. So thank you, ladies, for being here with me and for being really beautiful examples of what it looks like to create sacred self-care and to fill yourself up and to also hold me accountable for doing that for myself as well, holding space. And together we've co-created beautiful opportunities in our playground membership, in our workshops, in our retreats. So I think it's going to be fun. I'd love to just actually, before we go any further, because there might be some new listeners, take just a moment to dive in and introduce ourselves and then dive into sacred self-care. So welcome, Nicole and Nina. Would you share a little bit about what sacred self-care means to you and like why you've made it part of your mission to share this?
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Nicole Rose, or Radiant Soul Nicole, and I'm a soul embodiment guide and really love helping people dive into presence so that they can connect with the truth of who they are and access these transformational spaces. And I love that what I get to do is actually giving people the opportunity to practice self-care for themselves in the form of meeting their soul and their own divinity, because it is such an important process for me, an important part of my practice. And yeah, I definitely used to be in the camp where I wasn't able to put myself first, and I was doing, and self-care was just like a thing I checked off my list to do. But it took me a long time and really to be forced to be able to make it a number one priority and put myself first by getting a concussion, where I didn't have a choice but to take care of myself first. And now it is a lot easier. So my daughter sometimes will come up and be like, I want you to play with me. I'm like, Mommy needs a timeout right now. I need to meditate. And then I can play with you because I need to fill myself up first. And I know that is so hard for many people to talk to their, to put those boundaries up with their children, but it's so necessary. I tell her all the time that if you don't let me do this right now, then I'm not going to be a very good mommy. Much better mommy when I get like even 10 minutes sometimes to take care of myself. Yeah. And I feel like already my heart's just giving a bit of a transmission. So I realized recently that my heart transmissions are actually like an access portal to presence and divine connection as well, which is really freaking cool. So if you can receive that and take a moment just to land in this space right here, right now, let me know if you can feel it. sending out some love energy, bringing in some relaxation for the nervous system. Let's just take a moment and take some big breaths together, breathing in through the nose and letting sigh out through the mouth. And then again. And in your own time, gently opening your eyes, blinking them open. Just noticing if you're feeling any different than you were a few seconds ago. And that is such a beautiful example of how our self-care doesn't need to be spending 5 hours a day doing something. You can take literally a few breaths and drop into that sacred presence to reset and refocus wherever you're at in your day. I'd love to hear, Nina, what your take on self-care is all about.
I loved that, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing. And when it first started to come through, I was seeing these golden spirals of light that were landing into my heart center. And so, yeah, I'm Nina Infinity. For those of you who may not know me, I am a sacred ceremonialist and a transformational guide, and I create magical experiences through ceremony, through breathwork and movement, meditation, ecstatic dance, cacao, and meditation, and so much more. And yeah, so self-care is a cornerstone to what I do share, and it's the foundation on which all things grow. And I had a similar experience to Nicole, where different but similar, where I also had a shakeup of the body saying, you can't do this anymore. You need to pump the brakes, really assess life, the little knocks of intuition I wasn't really heeding at the time. And it really brought me into this path of really making self-care more of a way of life, and like weaving it into all aspects, making it a ceremony, all of life. And so yeah, I think it's been almost 4 years now since that journey began. Prior to that, I was into self-care before, but it was just so much more. It was illuminated. It was like my body, like, it's like I realized if I didn't take care of my body, then I could have, riches, and I could have relationships, and I could have fame, and I could have all the things, but if I didn't have my health, then I wasn't able to really enjoy it from that place of radiant vitality, which is so, so important. So that's why it's a foundation for me, and a foundation in what I look to share as well.
I love that. And Nina, I always love to witness your self-care, because the contrast between what you have this spaciousness in your life to do versus what can sometimes happen with mom life, like Nicole was mentioning about the differences with that. And I feel like I can sometimes vicariously receive the coding and the nourishment from what you do. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's inspiring, but I also feel like as you nourish yourself, it ripples out, and I get to reap the benefits of that beautiful harvest. So yeah, it's working, and it's beautiful. So I've called myself so many different things throughout the years, trying to like English multidimensional concept, which is challenging. But recently I started calling myself an Ascension Doula. I have been a birth doula in the past and attended births, and I have my own child. And the process is so similar, of supporting someone through the elevation of their consciousness, through their expansion and their conscious rebirthing of their own self into their next level. And I love working with light leaders, creatives, soulpreneurs in different ways. And the foundation for all of the work that we do together to create these elevated, expanded expressions of soul in the world require really solid self-care. And especially when people are coming to work with me, play with me, they're feeling like they're at this precipice of expanding into this next level. And at that time, there's a need to level up self-care beyond what we've done in the past, because what you do at the old level is not going to support you at this new level that you're embodying, right? So as we go through the chrysalis, like cocoon journey of everything, like, you know, melting down, there's an extra need for self-care when we're in the rebirthing process. But there's also, when you're emerging from the cocoon, ready to step into this new level, another really huge need for self-care. And it looks different for every person. It looks different for moms. It looks different for entrepreneurs. It looks different for healers. But everybody that's in my field has needed to really level up the kinds of self-care that they're offering themselves, because the old, just check it off the box kind of self-care is not working anymore. And for me, every time I'm going into a new level of leadership, expansion, holding more space for more people, expanding my business, or doing something like becoming a mom, there's a whole new level, new devil to hold. And the self-care is basically what creates the possibility. And it gets to be in all facets, our body, of course, but also the mind level, the heart level, so the emotional level, and then the action realm. And it gets to be integrated with spirit, our own soul essence. Otherwise, it's going to fall flat if it's missing in any one of these areas. And then there's also the, of course, personal responsibility part, where we have to do for ourselves, put our oxygen mask on first, especially as light leaders, coaches, teachers, healers, helping people out in the community type folks who are maybe not considering themselves any one of those other titles, but they're the helpers, right? We have to do it for ourselves first. But also, we can't not mention the community care aspect of things as well. Both for people who need more support than they're able to give themselves, but also for all of us. So I just wanted to mention, this is so multifactorial, and we'll talk about as much of it as we can, but it's such a wide and vast topic. We might be missing some of the nuance. So I just want to invite everybody that's listening to hear what we're saying and run it through the filter for them. Is this piece for me, or am I going to do this in a different way? Right? Because we'll talk from our experience, what works for our friends, our clients, and there's going to be an individualized journey for each person. And there's going to be elements that you can't even bring in yourself. And we get to co-create together for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting and vast topic for sure. And as you were just speaking there, I was feeling into my own experience, and something that's just wanting to come through is how, sorry, my dog is barking at my husband coming home. Oh, and Aurora's home now, and my daughter's home. That's a surprise also. All right, I think that I have a child coming up, so I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this thought. So let's start a new thought. Give me 1 second here.
I'll pick that up. Yeah, it is such a vast topic. Hi, Aurora. Little Aurora, we call her. What a cutie. And there's Millie in the mirror. Yeah, just with it being such a vast topic, I know that oftentimes it can feel like, as you were mentioning, Aurora, let's just touch on what you were saying about there being different people having different amounts of time that they can devote to self-care. And I recognize that the vast amount that I have compared to like mom life is a privilege for sure. And also, like you were saying, Nicole, to really still create those moments where it's even a couple of breaths and recognize that it's not an all or nothing situation. And I know that I personally sometimes can have the mindset of an all or nothing situation in various types of parts of life. And so, yeah, that's just dropping in right now to share that even if a person doesn't have a whole day or a whole afternoon or several hours, there can still be moments throughout the day. And that can really be key to reorienting and bringing ourselves back into center so that everything that we do can be loaded and coded in this frequency of being more of who we really are. And yeah, so knowing that we can weave like those little moments throughout, even a couple of breaths, placing one hand on the heart and coming into a state of heart coherence. I'll give you a quick little tutorial on that. When you place one hand on your heart and you really feel something that you're grateful for, it can be simple. It can be Mother Nature, the earth, it can be the blue sky, Father Sun, the oceans, the mountains, and just truly feeling this gratitude flow and expand in your heart, and breathe in that gratitude and breathe out that gratitude as you're offering to all of life. And then the second part is to bring to your mind's eye and into your heart someone or something that you love. It can be a family member, a loved one, it can be yourself. And really letting this love swell in your heart, breathing it in, and breathing this love out all around you. And this is a practice called heart coherence. And when we do this, it just brings us into, it strengthens the relationship and the conversation between the heart and the mind, so that we're not only operating from our mind, we're also operating from our heart in this communion. And when we do a heart coherence practice, we can operate from this state for about 6 hours after. It's been proven. So if you do this maybe twice a day, wow, what an amazing programming that you're setting. And the more that you do it, the more decoded and regulated your nervous system becomes. And it's so quick, just a couple of breaths.
Yes. And that's kind of a foundation for like all of the work that we do, is a regulated nervous system that is not in fight or flight, but rather in that rest and digest, parasympathetic state of being. And the fastest way in for me too is breath. And I remember practicing this like 10, 12 years ago when I was a waitress, a server, and I'd be like in the weeds and I'd be realizing that I'm like rushing around and I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do all that. And what I would do is like, okay, I've got time for 3 breaths when I'm standing here and I'm realizing I'm skittering all over the place. And I would take 3 really long, slow, deep breaths, and I would feel the alignment come through, right? When we're in that heart coherence, it's alignment, body, mind, heart, soul. And then things slow down for me. And I have, and we all have, this capacity to actually see more, to use our tools, and then go, what do I need next, right? It just offers us the creativity and the intuition to be able to ask the question instead of being in that fight or flight space of like, oh my gosh, spinning. So that's incredibly foundational to self-care. And we love sharing practices to bring in that kind of regulated nervous system pretty much at the beginning of almost anything that we do, including this meeting, because we were running a little bit late. There was some sacred self-care practices that needed to happen. And the old program of like, oh my God, we're late, showing up, we said we were gonna be 4 o'clock, that my mind started to do. Which is not conducive to having a conversation about self-care. So it was like, okay, we're calling in sacred space, but let's just take a moment to literally physically shake off the ick, right? Like all of the contracting feelings of smallness, of just uncomfortableness that were coming through for me personally. And I don't know if anyone else felt some of that, but shaking it literally gives us space. And in that spaciousness, we have possibility, and we can see the other possibilities that come through. And then we can create that coherence and alignment so that we can go, what's next, right? What's next?
I am just laughing at the us getting to practice these things that we're talking about while we're having our little children visit us. I definitely could feel like the first time little Aurora came to visit, I'm like, okay, she doesn't know what's happening. But then she came in 2 more times and it was starting to get a little bit. And as that was happening, Aurora was talking about, big Aurora was talking about the alignment, mind, body, heart, and soul. And I immediately went, okay, come back to center. And then I felt okay again and stopped myself from going into that little freak out space. And what I was going to say before is that's why it's so important that we do that and come back to center so often. Even if you're doing little things throughout the day that don't take a lot of time, it's way better than, spending, not doing anything like all week long and then spending an hour or something on the weekend taking care of yourself, because then you're going to be likely so far out of alignment that it's going to take so much more effort, and you're probably going to be so much more tired and things are going to be more crunchy. Like, it's those little steps every day that bring in the ability to have that solid foundation like we've been talking about. And really checking in with what you need every moment is so important too. There was a time when I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to doing yoga every day. But some days I didn't want to do it, but because I committed to doing it, I was like, I have to do it. Otherwise I'm letting myself down, and I would shit all over myself and tell myself I'm a failure and all these stories. And what I learned was actually listening to what my body needs in the moment, because that changes all the time, because I'm, human, and because I'm a female. So I'm riding different waves of hormones and energy levels and all that stuff all the time. It's so much more beneficial to listen to what you need in the moment and give yourself that. And that becomes a sacred practice, because it's like you're deepening your connection with who you are and what you need and understanding it. And every moment can become sacred then, which is such a beautiful thing. When I first realized and heard somebody else speak of how every moment is sacred, and it's not something like where we have our time that is sacred, that's compartmentalized, but we can bring that, like, this moment now is sacred because we're breathing, we are human, we are here, our divinity is here, it's not outside of us, it's all happening right now. So every breath you could take can be considered sacred. And it's not that we always remember that, but having those moments of mindfulness and presence bring you back to that. And it's such a beautiful exploration, and my word for this year is sacred. So I'm really exploring and playing with embodying that more and remembering that each moment is sacred.
I love that, the finding the sacred in the mundane. So it's not something separate from self, but connecting into all of it. And that just explains so perfectly why the nervous system relaxation is the foundation. Because if we're in that fight or flight, I was talking about the spaciousness, that if we're out of alignment and we have no space, we can't connect, or we can't understand and feel the connection to that sacredness, to our heart, to the all that is, whatever you feel most connected to nature, to source, creator, whatever you feel the most of that beautiful divine energy when you're connected to, right? When we put our shields up, defenses up, because we are spinning, we feel unsafe, then those connections cannot easily be accessed. I want to remind you, they're always there. So it's just our perception of them, because we're closing ourselves off from that. And then we feel like we're separate from everything. And that's when sacredness feels inaccessible and outside of self, right? But when we have that relaxed nervous system state through the self-care practices, we can tap into and recognize that flow of energy of the all that is the undercurrent that allows us to be with the essence of everything, right? And to feel connected. I think connection is another really important facet of that self-care, right? Connection to self, connection to other people, connection to nature, all of the elements, connection to our spiritual team, connection to, the quantum field, whatever you are wanting to feel. Without that connection, we feel alone, we can feel frightened, we can feel empty. So it's a really deep, I think, need that we have. There's a big drive and desire for it. And I think a lot of people are walking around feeling disconnected. So this sacred self-care, the nervous system regulation, and that allowing us to even have a chance of connecting with others and self and the all that is one of the antidotes to that feeling of disconnection and like anomie and alienation that are basically plaguing a lot of people on Earth right now. And right now it's easy to feel disconnected because of, the isolation and the restrictions as well. So I feel like it's more important than it ever has been.
I agree. It's a crucial pillar at this time. And I know for a lot of people that are going through a lot, there's a lot of people that are awakening right now too. They're really beginning to tap into this whole world of the spiritual realm and what's possible. And it's such a fascinating time to be alive. What was coming up for me when you were sharing a little bit ago was I think Nicole, you were sharing about getting off kilter over the course of the week and then needing to do a lot to come back. It was kind of reminding me of fitness and like physical fitness, and the way that, if you don't exercise for an extended period of time, it's going to take a little bit longer to really feel that strength again. It's going to feel longer to feel that flexibility again, to walk up like a huge flight of stairs in the river valley, or to do a specific stretch. You might feel really tight and bound up, and then it takes time to unwind and to find that fluidity and flexibility and let's say also stamina once again. And so it is like a muscle. That's why it's called a practice, a spiritual practice, a self-care practice, because the more that we practice it, it's kind of like we're working that muscle, and it becomes stronger and it becomes more deeply ingrained, deeply rooted. And then also those neural pathways are creating those stronger connections. The more that we do something, the more ingrained it becomes. And then it becomes a part of us. It can become more of that new normal, that baseline of where we can operate from. And also it can be that space from responding rather than reacting. If our nervous system is in a more regulated state and we have more conversation happening between the heart and the mind. And also, let's also hold space for the compassion when we may forget. And because we are humans and we do forget, it's kind of this, I was just chatting with a friend last night about this. He's saying that he wants to remember. He wants to remember to do the things that help him feel good. And I was giving him a nudge and helping him remember. And so often in our conversations, go to WhatsApp chat with the three of us here, and Nicole and Aurora are so kind and loving and beautifully reminding me at times when I'm forgetting. And so I mentioned that to him. I said, sometimes we forget, and that's why those in our life can help us to remember. And it's this comical, like, you kind of just have to laugh that we are humans with amnesia. We're these spiritual, mega powerful, mega magical beings that came here and forgot. We agreed to have this amnesia. That's part of our contract, is to forget and then to remember and then to forget again and then to remember again. So I just think it's kind of hilarious. So have compassion with yourself when you do forget to do the self-care and to be gentle with yourself, when you, there's no falling off the wagon. Let's just cancel, clear, delete that. And there's going to be times when you may not recall all of these amazing tools that you have, and then be gentle. It's okay. I forgot. Be gentle. Like, I love you anyways. And then do the thing. Take the breaths. Go for the couple-minute walk outside to get the fresh air, and then you can always, always reorient and pick it up again.
I love that compassion, because not only do sometimes life circumstances make it so that it's really hard to do what we normally do, but there's also just that experience that I feel like is universal, that we just sometimes slack. And that's what's actually needed at that time. So there doesn't have to be a judgment on it, but maybe you just need some serious integration days where you're not really doing anything, and it's most appropriate for you to be napping, Netflixing, reading, whatever, and not peopling, not yogaing, not doing all of that stuff. But then, like you were talking about, both of you, there's a difficulty of getting sort of back to it because we have no momentum, and then we have to put that effort in, and it feels hard, and it's like going back to the gym after many years of not doing it. But once you get over the hump and it becomes more habitual, then you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, and it becomes effortless. But I feel like we all come up against times where, whether it's circumstances or a need for integration, that we just won't. So we sometimes have to put more effort in, and then it's easier to shift the momentum, and it's easier to basically start, you started the upward spiral again. And I love that. I stopped dancing because of injuries a few years ago, right when everything was turning online, when the shutdowns happened. And I had been abusing my body for so many years, teaching gymnastics and dancing, and just like not balancing everything for a long time. And then after those injuries, it was so hard for me to cultivate a practice of dance again. And I would do it when I was with people, and that made it easy because you've got the community energy to help you. But it took so much to get back to doing that myself, even though I knew it would be the most supportive thing for me. But I so appreciate that there was almost a 2.5-year lag in having a daily devotional dance practice, because I had the chance to miss it. I really got to see what my life looked like without it. And so it just offers us this perspective of clarity through the contrast. And the community part, it is not as easy to access right now, at least in live events. So I'm grateful that I have my own practice, but I also wanted to just segue into that. Community care is not always just your community taking care of you, but it's the energy and the field that happens when we all gather together to do something, because we are creatures that are social and we have these codes for each other. But the group field can actually just basically take some of that momentum and give it to you. And it's just so much easier. It's so much easier to dance for hours and hours at like a hula hoop class or a festival or something than it is at home by yourself in your basement, right? And so that's the thing that we also really noticed when the restrictions happened. We were missing those community events. And so we created a space online where we could have those communities, and we would have obligations to show up for ourselves and for each other and for our community. And I feel like that has been my saving grace of having the community to count on being there and doing it with me, because it is not as much fun to do this stuff by yourself. Having people hold space, having accountability buddies, all of that, it makes such a huge difference. And I know you ladies would have more to say on that sort of facet of all of this sacred self-care.
Absolutely. Well, as you were speaking about that and creating community, I was thinking, of course, of the playground, our membership. And not only do I just show up when I'm facilitating or we're doing a ceremony or something, but I use the playground like regularly to practice dance and meditation and all of the things, because we have created such a beautiful library of sacred self-care practices that have gotten me through the past 2 years. Well, I guess only a year. It's only been around a year. um, but yeah, they've gotten me through so much, because I also feel like there's like a big energy behind everything that we do in there as well. So beautiful. And what I also wanted to share about was how it's really a resilience. Self-care, sacred self-care is really like a resilience building practice. And actually, in the Gifts of Imperfection, one of the, in Brene Brown's book, one of the pillars that she talks about for people that live, I can't remember what she calls it, like heart-centered lives, I think, or something like that anyways. She talks about how having resilience is one of the things that all the people that she's researched has, and having resilience comes with having a spiritual practice of some sort. It doesn't matter what you believe in, but having that. And I can say for myself that having the spiritual practice got me through having the concussion that I had for 2 years. I wouldn't have been able to get through all of that with as much ease and grace as I did if I didn't have that and the community and all of that stuff. And I can literally compare it to the period of time that was like the 2 years before I had the concussion. My husband had a mental health crisis basically, and was like unavailable to really do a whole lot because of just the severity of it and trying to get that sorted. So I was returned to work, taking care of my 2-year-old kid at the time, and it was a very stressful time. And I kind of became cynical and let go of my spiritual practice. So I was still doing self-care. I was going to a talk therapist and was like doing the bare minimum kind of to take care of my body as much as I could. And it wasn't really enough to get me through, because I just kind of was doing that stuff, but I was still going in that downward spiral because I was still lacking that connection to my divinity, my heart, my presence, my connection to source. I did reach out to other people, but those other people couldn't fill that void that I was lacking within myself. And the ability to come back to my spiritual practice and be able to access that heart-centeredness and everything that we've just been speaking about really helped me get through what could have been such a difficult time in my life. It was. It taught me a lot of lessons, but it's so interesting to have that contrast of what life was like going through a crisis when I didn't have a spiritual sacred practice and when I did. And, you could probably say that it might be more difficult to lose your own identity and all of that stuff when the concussion happened to me versus the thing happening to my husband. And I guess they're both difficult in different ways. So it's in a way comparing apples and oranges, but it's just such an important resilience tool for us to navigate the times that we're living in right now, regardless of what it is. So if you're watching this and you're finding that your self-care is like, maybe doesn't feel like it's giving you what you need, perhaps there is an opportunity to explore more sacredness or more spirituality and deepen your connection to yourself, to your divinity, to source, to God, to the universe, whatever it is that you believe.
Sacred resilience. I mean, it'd be great if we didn't have to be resilient. That would be amazing. But we did not come here for that, for the easy ride at this time. There's other places where we could have explored ease, not what these lives were about. And it's true. it's not that you're not going to have challenges come up to you. It's just that you will have the support internally and externally, but mostly like the internal resources to deal with things, and the connection to your divine team and to that faith and trust, surrender, that helps you get through pretty much anything, right? I know going through every challenge that I've been through, the more that I'm able to tap into that inner wellspring of the divine energy that is inside each of us, the more I tap into that in myself, the more I'm like, oh, I can do hard things, right? It supports our beingness to go inward and tap into that wellspring that actually does exist inside of us. But again, you can't access it if you are just running too much energy, trauma stuck in your body, if you are in that kind of state. And we might need support from other people to heal it. And it's a freaking constant journey. I'm constantly getting healing sessions and energy clearings and support from friends and moving through different levels and layers. But it's being able to navigate those things as they come up, even if they're from your past, with more of that grace and ease, like you were saying, Nicole, that makes such a difference. It doesn't just come with like age. It doesn't just come with anything like that. It comes with actually practicing, right? There are people that get to their 90s that haven't cultivated that, right? So you don't have to be good at it right away. It can be really hard right away. And there's going to be different points in time where it feels like slogging through mud because there are other circumstances, there are cosmic things, there's Akashic stuff coming up for you to clear, like all of these challenges. And yet, when we cultivate the spiritual practices and the sacred self-care, we can do the hard things. I think it just gives us the capacity to hold more, right? And expand more, but also root down deeper into the earth and just run so much more energy without feeling like we're gonna fry, I guess, really, because there is more and more coming to this planet as well. There's a lot of cosmic energy. There's a lot of energy coming from the earth, emitting itself from the hearts of the people that are here as well. And so if we are all like sticky, there's a lot of density, if there's too many feelings that are stuck in us that we haven't moved, which is also part of self-care, right? Like feeling the feelings, that kind of thing, right? Working with the belief systems that are unsupportive. If we're just full, there's no space for that energy to run through. And that's also how we navigate this world and have the resilience to keep going when stuff is happening, which it will continue to do because that's life here on earth.
Yeah, resilience seems to be such a thing right now. It's just been up for so many people. And like I was saying, it is a muscle, and there is this practice that we get to deepen. And I'm so grateful for the community that we've created, the playground. And I see many of the beautiful women in the playground. Erin and Ashley and Teely are joining us right now watching. Yeah, shout out to everyone that's watching that's in the playground. I'm just so grateful for the collective and the group energy that you were sharing about earlier, Aurora, where it is amplified. Like whenever, was it Jesus who said, when two or more gather, there's like, I don't know what the exact quote was, but there's like an amplification of prayer. There's an amplification of energy. We set intentions. We get to really like hold space for one another. And it's so cool that, so I was actually really super comfortable doing online or doing in-person events prior to COVID. I was like, I want to do the online thing, but in person is just so juicy. And then when there wasn't the option, it was like, oh, this is actually really nourishing. When I gave it a chance, when I realized, okay, this is what is accessible right now, this is what the option is, whether it's just not connecting with anybody or whether it's connecting virtually. Wow, like there is such a potency that happens. And even I think that we're strengthening like our telepathic powers and our ability to project our awareness and our consciousness into the 0 point, which is beyond time and space, where we can meet one another's frequency and energies and mix and meld and come together and weave these lines of light all over the world, wherever we are and at any time too. Like when I watch the replays of events that we've done, or when other people watch the replays, the experience is always of like, oh, I was right there with you, I felt it, you know. So I wanted to share a little bit about that as well, because for me personally, I used to be a little bit like, oh yeah, online's cool, but it's not as magical. But you know what, it actually is really super potent and super magical, which I'm super grateful to have discovered. And yeah, COVID has illuminated a lot of things and motivated a lot of growth and yeah, shaken up a lot of stuff. And that's one thing that I'm really grateful for.
I am so grateful for technology, for the internet, for all of the abilities we have to connect online digitally, because it also lets us find our people, that soul family that happen to be planted and incarnate like across the globe, because there's nothing more fun than doing an online event, meditation, and finding out where people are coming in. I say unironically, where are you zooming in from? And noticing that there are people from around the globe. And then I always feel, see, dream, imagine these light pillars that are across the world that are really just letting the light, the activations, the healing work ripple through the earth in a much more profound way. And it's so exciting. We have this opportunity online to connect with those people that we would probably never run into otherwise, right? It's just such a glorious thing. Technology is so neutral, right? It's what you make of it. People are like, oh, social media is bad, the internet, the computers, right? It's like, or they're amazing. It just depends on how you're utilizing them. And when you're utilizing them to connect heart to heart, soul to soul with people, and like using that energy to do the internal shifts and change and let that healing spill out and into the world around us, it is the best thing ever. You're so right, Nina. It feels so good. And the replays always are just as potent. And it's a different kind of potency than meeting online. It really is. But I love what you said about practicing telepathy, because yeah, I have, since I started working with clients and other people online and in group facilitation, really amplified my telepathy, my all of my clairs. I spend half of the time that I'm working with people energetically with my eyes closed, right? And it's just our capacity expands to be able to tap into the feeling and the frequency and the field. So I'm so delighted that we get to explore all of this together. And I'm also delighted for the time when it's just super easy to meet people online. And I'm even more excited about when we can just like teleport to all those locales and meet each other effortlessly. Yeah. But it's really important to have, I think, both, right? To have those online experiences that are available to us at any time, and then also have the in-person connections, because they're both really valuable and different skill sets. So watch out for our retreats and our in-person events that we are waiting until it's like effortless to put on, because that's kind of where we want to play. But we do want to invite you right now into the playground if you want to join us for February, where the theme is self-care, or self-love is divine love, right? And we're really going to be going deep into the heart space with beautiful cacao ceremonies and in breath of bliss ceremony as well. And we're going to be going inward to explore the universe within us, to find the beauty that is available inside each of our heart spaces, and also anchor it in with energetic practices like dance, like soul journeys, meditations. And I'm also going to be offering a coaching call to support the mind level that is sometimes blocking us from feeling like we can really dive in and give ourselves the time and attention for those sacred practices that are so soul filling. And so we're going to be reprogramming those beliefs, that old paradigm of scarcity and separation that I was speaking of at the beginning, that makes it difficult for us to prioritize ourselves and connect to that sacred energy. So there's so many resources available. The doors are just open until Wednesday. It is $33, which is the Ascended Master Angel number there, USD. We'd have to charge about 41, 44 in Canadian. So we wanted to have that 33 anchoring in there. And you have access to everything that's coming up, our guest facilitators, our amazing upcoming events, but also the incredible library of everything we've ever done at your fingertips 24/7. And so it's this resource space, but it's also just a sacred space that's been energetically encoded for all of us to dive in, to connect with that divinity within and play and explore it and do it in community together. So welcoming you in there. We'll have the link just in the notes here. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's just in the show details as well. And it would be amazing to be able to grow in that collective energy field and have more beings, beautiful beings, explore all of it together. Is there anything, ladies, that you wanted to share about the opportunity to come and play with us before we sign off?
Yeah, I'll share. I am super stoked to be sharing a Breath of Bliss breathwork ceremony in February on the 6th. And it's just such a juicy ceremony of the heart, of using the breath, the conscious connected breath, where we're breathing through the mouth for a whole hour. And I'm guiding participants lying down, using this soundscape of music, connecting us to the elements, to connecting us to our hearts and our higher selves. And it's just such a magical experience. And then we also do some movement and some intention setting and some reflection. It just feels like such a rich, heart-filling offering for me to share and also for people to receive. There's just been such amazing feedback from all of the ceremonies that I've shared. So I feel super honored to be offering this in the playground in February. And there's also a replay from last January when I shared one as well. So if you join, then you can experience both, as well as so much other goodness.
I have to jump back in here because Breath of Bliss is incredible, and I've experienced it several times with Nina. And it's amazing for clearing things out, right? It's so great for that. But also I've had the experience of literally writhing on the floor in bliss, just like flying around the cosmos, like dancing in the clouds. It's so good. It's so much fun. So that alone is like worth the price of the membership for 1 month. It's a lot of fun. I'm so excited to do that with you again, Nina. And our cacao ceremony last year that we did was also one of the most heart expanding experiences that I have had. It was so profoundly moving. And that one felt like the ripples, just like it lasted for days, that like high that you get from cacao, which is a plant medicine that just expands you into this connected state. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. The energy of February is already here, right, Nicole?
It absolutely is. Yes, I was going to also say I love Nina's Breath of Bliss ceremonies and all the dances. And as like we were talking about before, how dance is such a beautiful practice. And there's so many different opportunities to dance. And all of the dance practices that I've been sharing lately, and probably since the beginning of the playground, I would actually call them more like multidimensional dance experiences, because I'm always calling in Gaia and our ancestors, and they're often there like dancing along with us. There's activations that come through. So it's so much more than just movement and just breath. It's this beautiful way to bridge like metaphysical stuff and spirituality and sacred self-care. And yeah, I think some people have in our membership have said like, this is like the best kept secret on the internet. We need to, yeah, invite more people in. We'd love to have you join us for more ceremonies. We just did our abundance ceremony last week, which was so freaking magical as well. You can't really see it too much, but I've got my abundance altar behind me. Like there's so many different ways that you can drop in. And one thing that I'm being called to share is something that your self-care as you evolve and expand your consciousness, what you need to do for your self-care might change. And this is a really great opportunity to potentially, I don't know what you're already doing, but potentially invite in more expansive consciousness activities into what you're doing, where it's not just a, what am I trying to say? Where it's not like you're doing something for just to get an end result, but it's to actually be able to have this beautiful sacred experience for yourself. I think the most transformation I've experienced is when somebody's held space for me to just be and experience and gives me that time and space out of time where I can connect in with myself. And I learned so much about myself that way. And as we're moving through our lives and doing all the different things, it's such a gift to be able to give ourselves these opportunities to drop deep and transform and expand and grow. And yeah, we just love to have you there. Artist is asking, will it be open again in the future? It will. I don't recall if we have set a date for the next door opening yet. We're saying no. So it'll be open now and then sometime again in the future.
And this was actually a spontaneous opening because the abundance ceremony was so freaking magical last week. We're like, we have to share these codes. We have to open this so that people can experience the replay and just dive into the magic. And then just knowing the amazing themes and of the month that we have coming up, we knew that we wanted to, make this offer and make this opportunity possible. And I don't know if we mentioned, but there are themes every month that we feature. So we really dive deep into that. January is all about abundance. February, as we mentioned, is all about divine love and self-love. And then March is going to be about light codes and light language and really activating that magic within us through various practices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feeling into it. When I just like dip my energy into that future of what is to come, it's very expansive and illuminating and magical. And I think it really is different what we do and what we bring through and what we three are coded to do, which is, like Nicole said, create sacred experiences for people to have their own connection to their own divinity and to all that they are, instead of learning it from the intellectual space, right? Instead of just like learning from a teacher where you're like taking notes and you're like, we're all divine. Yeah, all, we have these access points in our heart to the multiverse, right? Like learning in that way, it's cool, but it doesn't actually teach us the embodied experiential wisdom of having the practices to go deep. And we love to work on the body, mind, soul, and aligned action spaces, because if you only work with one of those elements, there's going to be pieces missing, right? So we love just weaving it all together to support all aspects of ourselves and just bring through what the community is requiring at that time, like what the newest things are. And that's why we're not like, yeah, we can open again in XYZ. Maybe someday we'll be that organized, but really it's about following the energy and allowing it to, really just dancing with it. I think that is the thing. And we are energetically shifting some of the focus, because when this was created, we were really wanting a space to have almost like a mini retreats, because we were missing retreats and workshops. And we were focusing a lot more on like manifestation and conscious creation and intuition. And there's still a big focus on that. But what really dropped in for us over the really in December was like, oh no, this is about exploring who we really are and our sacred connection to self and to the all that is in these beautiful experiential practices, right? The embodiment and that sacred energy gets to lead. And that's why I'm so excited to be sharing that self-love is divine love theme in February, because again, we're not doing anything different, but it's just the energetics of it shifted to lead with all of that energy that I feel like we require more than ever to navigate the world at large. Oh, beautiful souls, thank you for this divine hour. It's beautiful to connect with you all, whether you were live or on the replay. If you are watching this on YouTube, do be sure to like and subscribe. And I am in the very beginning stages of doing a 365 live challenge. So I will be back tomorrow. Who knows with what I will talk about, but I want to thank Nicole and Nina for doing this beautiful illumination chat with me. I love co-creating with you, beautiful souls. And thank you to everyone that was watching live, because that was a co-creation too. And people that are on the replay, like the energy that you're bringing forward supports what we wind up talking about, supports what we are doing. So this is a credit to you as well. And I want to invite you to just ask yourself now, and anytime you feel like you need a bit more of that sacred self-care energy, my favorite question. Put your hands on your heart, take a deep breath in, and ask yourself, what is the most loving thing I could do for myself in this moment? Then I almost always get, drink some water. Fine. Hydration is important, but also you might get the, stop putting off this one thing that you know you need to do, right? Sometimes it's like a smack from your heart going like, it's time to do the thing. And sometimes it's a time to not do the thing, to just be. So listen to that and please do whatever your body just asked you to do. And we will see you tomorrow, beautiful ones. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Take care. All of our love.
Bye. Thank you.